Ohio State versus Washington pregame show on Just Talk Sports podcast, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe for all my latest content. All right, so just dropped UFC, by the way. If you watch UFC or anything like that, check me out on Thursdays at 5. Now we're doing a Friday at 5, and that's Ohio State football. Took a week off. UFC, no fights. Ohio State, bye week. Now we're going to recap so far. I know there's only 3 games, week 3, week 4 of the season. I know they're 3-0, undefeated so far. The Buckeyes enter the 2025 season as reigning national champions. They're coached by Ryan Day, of course, with a new defensive coordinator here, Matt Patricia, as a defensive coordinator. Now, Ohio State leaned heavily on stops in the red zone and forced key fourth down failures from Texas. That was the first game. Then we had week 2, Grambling State blow them out 70-0. The Buckeyes scored on 8 of their first 9 possessions. Didn't punt until the halfway through the fourth quarter. Went all the way to the fourth quarter to the first punt. Julian Sayin, 18-19, 306 yards and 4 touchdowns. No one's overhyping him for some reason when Julian Sayin goes off against a no-name team. Hint, hint. Who do you think we're talking about? Week 3, going to Ohio at home, 37-9. But we didn't cover, by the way, did not cover. A more modest win, but still a comfortable margin. Now, that's through 3 games, and offense and defense have both looked pretty strong so far. Julian Sayin, take a look at some key players so far this season. He's off to a hot start, especially in the Grambling game. Bo Jackson, the running back, freshman, already making impact plays. He's got 108 yards and 9 carries against Grambling. Now, Jeremiah Smith, he continues to be a key target and had big plays with 87 yards against Grambling. So the defense, red zone efficiency. The Texas game showed their defense can carry them in tight contests, while the shutout versus Grambling shows they can dominate weaker competition. So the defensive toughness and tight games, the Texas game displayed their ability to bend but not break. Offensive explosions when things open up. The Grambling game showed how high the ceiling can be. Depth and balance emerging play from the multiple positions such as quarterback, running back, and the receivers. Consistency against tougher Big Ten foes. So far, Ohio State has mostly faced non-conference at lower tier competition. We'll find out tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 how they fare with the Big Ten matchup. So the run game balance and durability with freshman Bo Jackson is promising. So defensive consistency, the defense has looked strong, but it will get tested heavily as the schedule intensifies, especially in the run game, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So the Big Ten schedule matches up versus top-tier conference teams will be a key test. Injury management and the depth use, especially at running back and defensive line and the secondary. So game scripts. In close games, how often can the offense carry them versus needing the defense to bail them out? That was just a little recap of what has happened so far this season for Ohio State football. Now we're going to go into some game overview, a game preview. Ohio State versus Washington, both undefeated in a marquee matchup in the Big Ten opener on Saturday, September 27th at Alaska Airlines Field at Husky Stadium in Seattle. So the kickoff is at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, 12:30 Pacific, and it's on CBS, and you can also stream it on Paramount+. This matchup pits 2 undefeated teams against each other for the first time as conference foes, with Ohio State seeking its first road win of the season and Washington aiming to build on its hot start under second-year coach Jedd Fisch. Now, the Buckeyes are coming off a bye week after a dominant 37-9 win over Ohio, while the Huskies are riding high from a 59-24 Apple Cup rout of rival Washington State. Now, the betting lines have shifted notably towards Washington, though. Ohio State opened as a 13.5-point favorite, but now it's only a -8 to 8.5. Now, the over-under total is a 51.5 to 52.5. The money line sits at Ohio State at a -325, while Washington's at a +250. So reflecting sharp action on the Huskies covering at home. So this is the 13th all-time meeting. Ohio State leads 8-4 against Washington so far, but the last 28-23 Buckeye win was back in 2019 in the Rose Bowl, if you remember that. Washington's most recent victory came in 1994, so it's been a long time since Washington won. And did they win at home? I don't know. Answer that one for me, statistician. Ohio State Buckeyes has looked elite through 3 games, outscoring opponents. Take a look at some stats here. I'm going to give you some stats and facts. 119-21, 39.7 points per game, and 7 allowed. Their defense under Matt Patricia is the nation's stingiest defense at 5.3 points allowed per game and 0% opponent red zone scoring rate. Yes, I said 0% opponent red zone scoring. Nobody has scored in the red zone against the Buckeyes. Freshman quarterback Julian Sayin, he is a true freshman, has settled in after a shaky start against Texas, but he's a 68% completion percentage, 650 yards passing with 6 touchdowns and 1 INT, while adding 120 rushing yards. The run game has exploded late with 7.3 yards per carry, and that was against Ohio, led by true freshman Bo Jackson. 225 yards, 3 touchdowns last game. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate from a dynamic duo, but drops have hurt. Smith had 2 against Ohio, by the way. So let's look at some key stats here. We're going stats and facts, all figures, baby. Here we go. So Ohio State, like we said, 5.3 on defense. Total yards, 220. Points allowed, only 5.3. Only 5.3 points. Number 1 in the nation. Total yards allowed, 227 yards. That's 11th. We got 12 sacks. That's 5th all time. Rushing yards a game is 220. That's 8th. Now, this is Saying's first true road start. 3,000 miles from Columbus in the notorious loud stadium. Husky Stadium ranks top 10 for noise. What's the decibel level going to be like out there in Seattle? Patricia's scheme thrives on disguises and pressure, but dual threat quarterbacks like Washington Damon Williams Jr. have historically given Ohio State fits. So Coach Day hinted at a conservative approach, quote, take care of the football and just take one play at a time, end quote. Washington Huskies, their offense is a juggernaut. So taking a look at some Washington Husky stats, they're averaging 55.7 points per game. That's 2nd nationally. 536 yards per game. That's 10th. With a perfect red zone efficiency at 100%. So in contrast, the Buckeyes have allowed 0 points at all in the red zone, but the Washington Huskies are 100% with red zone efficiency. Key stat right there. Be watching for the red zone stats here on offense and defense with Washington and Buckeyes. Sophomore quarterback Damon Williams Jr., 5'11", 205 is a nightmare matchup. Described by Patricia as like Kyler Murray with pinpoint accuracy, 72% to be exact. He's got deep ball touch and elite mobility. He's got 150 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns. Running back Jonah Coleman is the Big Ten's TD king, 10 in 3 games, 347 yards on 51 carries, powering a ground attack averaging 6 yards per carry and 15 rushing scores. I am full of stats and facts for you guys today on the show. The Huskies have feasted on weaker foes, though, on Colorado State, UC Davis, and Washington State. So they played a bunch of no-namers. But we have 2. But their defense, 18.3 points per game, is 41st. Has yet to face a top-tier attack like Ohio State, though. So here's some key stats for them, for Washington. So points scored a game is 55.7, second. Rushing touchdowns is 15. That is first, by the way. Passing efficiency, 185.2, that's third. Plays from scrimmage, 176 from defense, that's 7th. So Washington's D generates pressures, 8 sacks, but struggles against the run with only 3.2 yards per carry, 109 yards a game. Fish's up-tempo scheme could wear down Ohio State's front, but the Huskies secondary with 4 INTs faces elite receivers in Smith and Tate. Home field advantage is massive. Washington is 8-1 at Husky Stadium since joining the Big Ten. And the key matchups, Sayin versus Williams Jr., the freshman poise meets dual threat dynamo. Sayin's pocket presence is improving, but Williams' escapability could exploit Patricia's aggressive blitzes. Ohio State's linebackers, led by All-American Arvell Reese, must contain the edges. Ohio State front seven versus Coleman rush attack. The Buckeyes allow just 2 yards per carry, but haven't seen a back like Coleman. He has 9.9 yards per carry so far. Reese and Caleb Downs' versatility will be tested. Expected gap schemes runs to gash early. If not, wide receiver duels, Smith-Tate versus Washington secondary. Ohio State's big playability, 18.3 yards reception, meets a UW pass. D that's solid but unproven, 18.3 points allowed. Deep shots could decide it, but wind, rain in Seattle adds risk. So we don't know what the forecast is going to be like. Do you know what it's going to be like, Jim? I don't know. Time of possession and red zone. Washington's tempo, 75 plays a game, which is crazy. Ohio State's efficiency is 0 turnovers in 2 games. The team that controls the clock wins. Huskies thrive in shootouts. Buckeyes in clock-chewing drives. Predictions and analysts, this has a trap game vibe written all over it. Top-ranked Ohio State on the road, post-bye, with a freshman QB facing a raucous crowd and a mobile QB who echoes past Buckeye nemesis, like Oregon's Dylan Gabriel, by the way, last year. Hint, hint. They got the loss. So Washington's offense is explosive, but inflated by soft schedules. Ohio State's D is legit, but vulnerable to runs at 109 rushing yards allowed per game. This is according to some stats and figures. The line movement toward Washington sharpens better than the plus 8.5, with fans predicting a close one due to travel and experience. ESPN's model gives Ohio State a 68.8% win probability, but only a 31.2% chance to cover. So if you're going to pick Ohio State, pick them to win, but don't pick them to cover. The simulating is 28-20, by the way, with the Buckeye win. Ohio State 31-24. The Buckeyes pull away late with Sayin's arm and Jackson's legs, but Williams keeps it competitive. Pick Ohio State, an 8.5. Total over 51.5 both. Defenses bend but don't break. If Washington forces turnovers, they have 5 picks. They cover easily. This could be the most entertaining Big Ten game of the week for Week 5. So, Ohio State gets to win. Just my prediction, 28-20, could be a closer game than expected, but that's an under on the 48, by the way, unless you want to do 31-24. If you want to do 31-24, so that was the ESPN's model, was 28-20. So ESPN had them at 68.8. If you want to go 69% to 31%. But I have them 31-24. Buckeyes win in Seattle. Hostile crowd. Don't be surprised if the Buckeyes are down early, but they'll come back late with Julian Sayin and, of course, big-time Jeremiah Smith. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Love you guys. God bless. What do? You tip the waitress.